Can you hear me? Yay!
Yeah, you're live. That time they gave me the top of the room.
Because you're hosting.
You look so tall.
I'm glowing.
Walter doesn't bug me.
Not really.
Hello, everyone. Oh, my hair. We'll wait until 6. We are ahead of schedule.
By 1 minute. Do you have Walter? I have Donna.
I have Walter, but he's gonna, I don't know, maybe you should say hi. Come here. Come here. Come here. Say hi. Come here. There he is. Come here, Walter.
Again. Oh boy, there she is.
Hi, Walter.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
0 inch.
He's
They're
so
shy.
cute. Oh. Thanks, Walter. Welcome to showing off our dogs.
All dogs all the time.
Yes. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us. We are here with our first Tough Talk of 2023. We did about 3 of them.
Can you guys see the
Yes.
comments at all?
Sorry. Yeah, so we did a few Tough Talks in 2022, mostly about camps and leading up to our event, Mammoth Tough. And just last week, we launched TUFF Ventures, which is the account that Dave is on right now. And with that, part of the reason, the biggest reason, honestly, why we started TUFF Ventures is because we wanted to do a little bit more riding camps, possibly events in the future outside of Mammoth. And so we wanted to expand and therefore leave Mammoth Tough as something that's under TUFF Ventures. And like I said, the big part of the reason why we did that was because we wanted to introduce some riding camps to Kansas. And with that, also, Bobby Thompson is a big part of it. So we figured our first Tough Talk should be with Bobby so we can talk about our Kansas camps. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing well. I bet you're a little bit warmer out there than I am here.
Yes, kind of. I don't know. I'm not Dave.
I see that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
This is buried.
So yeah, we are here today. We're going to talk about the Kansas camps. We have some questions lined up. We have some interest in folks that want to come do it, and I think the best way to make people feel comfortable is to have one of these conversations. And if there are things people are wondering about the camps and how we're going to run them, hopefully this makes you feel more confident to sign up. So if you haven't heard, our first camp is with Flint Hills Gravel, which is in April 5 through 8. Event day is April 8th. And then our 4th camp of the year is going to be Rock Ridge Gravel, which is July 5th through 8th. And the event is July 8th. So the first thing I'm going to point out is both of those weeks, one's Easter and one's a little bit after 4th of July. So these are nice holiday, fun trip excuses to come ride with us. I think that's very convenient, actually, because you probably have time off work, a little bit more of a reason to come head out to Kansas. So the overview of this conversation, I'm going to ask some questions about camp, how to get involved, and if you guys have any questions, we'll do that at the end. So let's start. David, what was the goal of building these camps?
Well, we talked about this before with the camps, and it's always kind of taking a step back as a coach from the performance side of it, and then kind of going out with just a group of individuals. And it doesn't matter if you're kind of new into it or more of like these elite, masters riders, and then try to go out and get some miles in, but also try to help people understand, like, well, what do you do getting ready for an event? So when we first did this whole idea of success and gravel with the tough camps in Bishop and Mammoth last year, it was to kind of break down a couple pieces or parts, do a little recon to Mammoth Tough. routes. And we've done some of these before with Grand Fondos on the roadside, or as a coach I have. And the way it kind of works well with the gravel thing is we can go in earlier in the week and talk about the ways to kind of be successful in these things, and then go out and check some of these segments and practice the stuff that we're talking about, and then use that event day as like your big test of all the skills. And then we use it more like as a collaborative group, because I think that people always add value. It's like, here's what I carry and these are the reasons why. And then people can show you, well, have you seen this that's come on the market or that? And like, we always have good conversations at these when everything comes about. And so that's kind of the bigger goal of why I wanted to do it. But also, like, I just remember back to 2015 doing my first ride in the Flint Hills, and I'd never ridden 200 miles, and it would have been very nice for somebody to maybe give me a little bit of insight, other than the 15 minutes I had with Dean and Rebecca after a dinner one night, and then just didn't sleep really because I was so nervous if I was even going to survive it. And that was before we even had navigation and everything else. So yeah, it was a lot more of an adventure then. And so that's kind of the bigger goal, right? Is how can we streamline this so that people can go be successful when they're spending a bunch of money to travel around and go to these events and make it fun.
My turn?
Yeah.
I have something to add to that. Yeah. When y'all started talking about doing the TUFF camps, and one of the main things was benefiting the riders so the experience on event day can be successful. Successful means different things to different people. To me, it means having a good time during the event, during the ride, but also completing the ride, and having that feel when you come across the finish line of like, I knocked out this challenge. You should always challenge yourself, I think. And I think having these camps is a great way to have a full rider's experience. You start off small with a small group of people. You form a little gravel family bond, people like to say, with these people, and you slowly learn that exact environment that you're going to be riding in just 3 days time. You're going to do that event at the end of the camp rather than go to a camp, go home for a couple months, come back to the ride. I mean, this is step into the camp, and then you get to experience the ride. You share you've been by yourself with a small group for 2-3 days, and then you come to riders check-in, and all of a sudden you go from 10 to 25 people to 500 to 700 people. But you still have your 10 people that you just shared 3 days with. And that's just, you're going to go home from Flint Hills Gravel. You're just going to feel the whole vibe of everything that's about the small community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess
Yeah.
like backstory also, that's kind of how you and I met, was when we did that thing in the UK, and that was like a camp of sorts. I mean, it was like a travel trip, right? We just like hung out,
Yeah.
and that's how we became friends. So yeah, that's where, I don't know, you could say a lot of this started from, is us building the friendship from there. And I think a lot of people, that can stem from it. And then kind of the genesis of this idea was you calling me and saying, hey, I don't have a lot of women signed up for Flint Hills Gravel. How can I get more women comfortable to do it? What should I do? And I said, I don't know, like maybe if I put on a camp, we can make them feel more comfortable to do it. Because a lot of times for women, it's like you're hesitating because you don't feel like either you feel like you belong or you know what you're doing. And so with these camps, it's kind of breaking that barrier to entry a little bit, where we're saying, we'll hold your hand for this part of it and make you feel more comfortable so that you can do the event on event day if you are scared.
Yeah. And that's not, I
Yeah,
mean, it's
right.
not just women for sure on that. And when you have such a like range of riders, like our goal is, and that's why we kind of said like we'll open it up to 25, but we kind of have a goal of like what is the total that we want to have so that we can subdivide into groups, and by the end of day one we'll know how people are going to ride together and then kind of where to put them, and then that way we can keep an eye on the groups and how to kind of operate out on the roads using SAG support and stuff. And so I always find it fun to kind of go and yeah, you have like this big group, and then you kind of divide and break out through the day, and then everybody's kind of got their stories of what happened out there on the road. And then the best part is when you kind of hear what SAG has to say at the end of the day, because they've seen all of it.
Anything, Bobby? Or yeah.
No, I definitely think that what I'm most excited about is the fact that you will leave Friday evening from the riders check-in, check-out ride, all that kind of stuff. You'll go back to your hotel. You'll know what's coming the next day to some extent, and you'll have little tidbits from me on the weather, on the road, and that kind of stuff. And you're going to wake up Saturday morning with that confidence and ready to roll and ready to have fun. You're still going to have a little nervousness. I got lots of porta potties, don't worry. But it's going to be a morning. Yeah.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah, I mean that's the main part I wanted to get across in the beginning was it's fun. We just want you to feel confident to do it. The next part we're going to get into a little bit about the schedule. So for those people who have done our camps in California, we use the Ride with GPS Experience portal, which is kind of just a platform on their app that you can open up, and it'll give you a day-by-day breakdown of how the camp is going to go. So we'll arrange it by day. We'll have information about the routes. That's where you'll get the routes that Bobby's going to create for us. And so that's the way that we're going to deliver all of that information. A lot of the schedule is on our website already. So the hour by hour of what the plan is for those 4 days will be there. But yeah, Dave, you can talk a little bit about the schedule.
Yeah, and people shouldn't be afraid. Like I know we had with the event things where people kind of get intimidated by all the technology side of it, and if you're not used to that or the route navigation stuff, like we can definitely help you with that, because that's kind of part of these events moving forward in the future. And then also, like, the great part about this Ride with GPS experience is it just has everything in there for each day. Like, we will put the schedule in where you're just kind of like, okay, it's Wednesday, and you click on Wednesday and it's like, here's where to park, and you can hit it and it takes you to Google Maps, and this is where we're going to eat, and this is what we're going to do here. And so everything's in there day by day, and really all you have to worry about doing is just kind of showing up and resting in the evening and riding your bike, and and then kind of just go and have some fun, try to learn some new things, or share what your experiences are in these, and come out and use this as like a building event for your season, because it's a good time of year for those getting ready, or you want to, like, this will be my first time I get to go to Flint Hills Gravel, so I'm excited because we're usually somewhere else at that time of the year, so it's going to be fun. But yeah, we basically will do a meet Wednesday, kind of midday, and people always ask when we do this like easy ride and shakeout, yeah, like, well, if I can't make it that day because of work, like, you don't have to. You can show up the next day and be ready to go in the morning, but we'll communicate with you ahead of time if that's what your plan is. So don't feel like you have to be there on that Wednesday, and we can modify things for you. And then that being said, we kind of just go out and do a little shakeout ride, make sure everybody's stuff's working properly and they're ready to go for the week, because it's going to eliminate any issues that we have during the week with being able to get moving on the road. And one of the things, like, we were kind of forgot to mention at the beginning is, like, the bigger part of this is like Flint Hills survival, right? Like, first time we went there, tire choices were not like tire choices now, and technology wasn't like it is now. And so that's another part of it, because there's different parts of Kansas and these events, and yeah, Flint Hills can be pretty savage on gear. So it's coming in understanding. Yeah. Oh yeah, we want to explain that just because I don't want to miss that. Like, there's a big part of that we want you to be successful with it. So after Wednesday, we kind of do a shakeout. We kind of preview the week, what we're doing. Thursday is our big day at camp, and the way that we do it is too, so that people understand, is we ride in these groups. We figure out who's going to be in the groups in the evening as coaches from what we see on the road. that helps us select groups for the next day. And then we take your bikes and your gear and go through it all to make sure everything's working. So that way we're eliminating issues on the road. And then people are always like, well, why are you cleaning my bike? It's going to get dirty again, because that's how you find problems. And then we can explain that stuff to you when you're out there. And so Thursdays are our long day where we get to go out and see a majority of the harder sections that Bobby will tell us about. And then we'll route those things later, and key areas that we do want to see. And then come back, and usually the way that we do these is we'll come back, everybody will try to be back around a certain time, grab a bite to eat, have recovery, and then we do a talk on things. And so that first day is more kind of like when we talk about these keys to success, it's kind of like, how do you plan an event? What do you look at? How do you get section to section? Because especially in Midwest gravel, you got to self-support, and so you need to know what that looks like if you've never done it. And if you have, how can you be better at that planning? Because there's probably been people out there that have had issues with things like, how much do I carry? And is that right? Or should I be more prepared? And then Friday, after we have the big Thursday, we kind of get some good rest and then go and have a little spin. Like, we'll still ride, we just won't make it the hardest day because the next day is the event. And so, a good way, if we give an example of like what it would look like if I was going to an event myself to race, it's, I want to go see the beginning part of the course or the end part of the course the day before the event, so I know what to expect on the way out when it is frisky and the big group's together. And so we'll cover those things, day one, and then on this day 3, and then mix in some of the farther out parts into that second day. And then again, in that evening, we'll come back and we'll have another discussion after lunch, where we can talk about like, what do we carry and why are promoters saying certain things with stuff to carry out there. And then we give you time in the afternoon before registration to go and sneak into town in case there's extra tidbits that you need once you learn what you actually need to be carrying. And then Bobby will take care of your registration.
I got you from that point on. Exactly.
Yeah, because I think that night you said that we're going to have like for everybody that's coming to camp, it's like a VIP registration.
Yeah, we'll have a VIP registration that's open a little bit earlier, because I know that so we'll get into it a little bit later, but lodging's a 10 or 15 minute drive away. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for you to finish up your camp experience that day, drive 10, 15 miles, and come back for the check-in, and then drive back home, and then come back for dinner. So we're going to have the early VIP check-in for y'all. And then you can go home, get cleaned up, get rested, and then come back for the full check-in experience. I won't get into everything, but we have, a fundraising spaghetti feed. We have a s'mores buffet that's going to be there. We have a shakeout ride that evening. We have a couple of our sponsors are putting up meet and greet tables. I'm not going to call it an expo because it's not an expo, but they'll have meet and greet tables set up for their products. So yeah, that'll all be that evening. So yeah, I'm excited for Friday. It's going to be busy this year.
Wait, hang on. What's your problem with the word expo?
Because it's not an expo. I have like 3 people. I don't want someone to say. Expo? I don't want someone to say, yeah, overall rating 1 to 5 stars on the Flint Hills Gravel Expo is a 2.5 because they called it an expo, but it had 3 places. So
it's an expo.
Right.
That's 3
So the
stars.
overall experience on a meet and greet, it's unlimited. You can say it's a 5. So I'm setting myself up for success.
I like it. Set the bar low. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The non-detail part of the schedule for me is the fun of just very quickly. You're coming to the town that from the age of 9 until I was married at 22, I lived in, grew up in. So I get to invite you back into my home. You're coming in there early. And the way I envision it is I drive into Americus and I sit in my Jeep near the park and I think, how are people going to come into this town? how do I want them? What are they going to do first? What do I want them to do first? And so I planned that out briefly for the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. And so it's an extension of my opportunity to show you the town I grew up in and the community, the Flint Hills community area that I grew up in. So I'm stoked for it those days.
Yeah, I love that. That's a big part of the reason why we wanted to do this with you too, is you're sharing what's important to you in your backyard. All right, so next section, finances for everybody that's interested in signing up. We're just gonna skim this part real quick. If you are interested, there is a $250 deposit to register, but everything we're talking about right now, if you go to tuff.ventures/camps, everything is in there. The schedule that we just talked about, if you click on the first camp number 1, like we have already the hour by hour schedule on there, so you can go through everything we just talked about. And underneath that, there's a button that says camp registration. You hit that and it will lead you to a form that will send us a message, and that's basically how you tell us that you're interested in signing up. You can also just email us if that is more comfortable for you, but that's how we are getting your information, right, Dave?
Yeah, and these camps are not like registering for an event. It's a little bit more intimate, and then what we do is we kind of just start with email, and if we need to get on a phone call, we will. We give you options of how you want to pay, and then we'll send out camp questionnaires as we lead into it. But I'd say probably in the beginning, what we're going to do is to make sure everybody gets codes for the events that they're signing up sites, and then the rest of the stuff that's included with camp, which is on that camp page, you'll kind of get at when you arrive there that week.
Cool. Bobby, what if somebody has already registered for your event? What are you going to do for them?
If you have already registered for the event, then obviously we'll get together and we'll take that value off of your registration. There's multiple ways we can do that, either camp fee or Amanda, we can also just easily reimburse. If that's easier. That way we keep everything solid and consistent with the camp. So that's easy to do.
Yeah, and
like
we also wanted
already registered.
Yeah, and we also wanted to point out, you get, if you want to do the long one at Bobby's and at Mammoth Tuff, that's like a $250 value right there. So if you take that off, this is really like an $800 camp essentially. So if you're interested in doing both, like, this is a fun way to make it more worth your while and feel more comfortable as well. So we want you to come to both, because I think that's the biggest thing for all of us, is having you experience both things, because I think it's very unique. All right. Next, because I got this question personally in a few DMs, how do we get to Emporia if we are not from the area, and what are our suggestions there?
Pretty cool.
Just fly into
We do
Emporia International.
No problem.
Just flying into the airport commercially. We do have an airport though. You would fly into either the MCI airport, which is Kansas City, or you'd fly into ICT, which is Eisenhower in Wichita, Kansas. Wichita is a much more quaint airport. It's small. It's easy to get around in. Flights a little bit more limited. But either one, Wichita is about an hour and 20 minutes away from Emporia, which I'm going to say Emporia for the sake of this conversation. Emporia is 10 minutes from Americus, because most likely when you come in, you're gonna come into Emporia first.
Yeah.
So Wichita is an hour and 20 minutes away, and Kansas City from the north is probably about an hour and 45 minutes away from Emporia. So you're gonna fly into those two places. You're gonna rent a car there, and you're gonna drive to Emporia. Americus does not have lodging. Small town, 600-700 people. But again, from the west side of Emporia, it is a straight north 10-mile drive, 10 minutes. And there's 3 hotels on that. So there's actually like 5 hotels over there, but name hotels: Hampton Inn, La Quinta, and Holiday Inn Express, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. I think for my 2 cents, whenever we fly to Kansas, I prefer ICT because the rental car structure is a walk across the street. It is not a shuttle like NCI. So I mean, that's like a personal preference, but I just think that ICT is pretty convenient.
Wow.
But yeah, that's my flight suggestion. I think one of the cool things about us basing this out of Americus is that for unbound years where the course goes north, a lot of times Americus is like the oh my god, we're almost done town. So when Bobby says it's just a straight shoot, like you really are in one of like the closest towns there, and for race routes that do go north, like it's kind of a cool town to be in because you have this feeling of like you're almost done whenever you go through there. So yeah, just another fun fact about the area. Yeah. Anything else about getting there or anything, David? No? No. Okay.
No, nothing I can think of. We put some
Oh, Visit Emporia.
actual at the bottom of each camp page, there's facts for each camp, and they're different based on each camp because they're all in different places. So if you kind of go to those facts, we definitely dropped in a link to for like lodging with Visit Emporia, and recommendations for from the tourism board. So I think that will help people a lot if they're unfamiliar with the area. Also, too, just on the travel because everything's pretty set up.
All right, so that's the why and the how you get to camp. This last section we're going to cover is a little bit about the Flint Hills specifically and what that means for equipment wise or general, like what you should have if you are thinking about coming to camp briefly. So we'll just go over a few of the basics. Tires. What tires should I run? Bobby.
You can run any kind of tire you want to run. Just be prepared for the experience you'll get out of it. No, I say that because what did we start off with? When I barely knew how to ride a bike, you started off with 35 happy meters, right? Then,
yeah.
So
Commuter tires, basically.
we survived the old Unbound 200, right? But it wasn't the best experience. So I would always suggest a wider tire. I love the wider than thinner, and wider allows you to adjust your pressure a little bit and have a little fun out there. Definitely anything with extra protection, puncture protection is a great way to go. Is that
Yeah, and we always kind of say like show up prepared and ready to go for these things. So sort of tubeless ready tire, a little bit extra. We'll touch on all these specifics when we get to the camp of like why, so that on that last day people can go and make those adjustments back in town and run to the bike shop or talk to the mechanic that's working on their bike, because there are kind of some key things there with well, it says on the bottle that I should have 1 ounce in there, and it's like, well, you're riding across arrowheads for 10 hours. It might be beneficial to have 2 ounces in there, and so we kind of go into the specifics on that, and everybody kind of really gets into this tire topic a lot. And the thing that Bobby's saying is like extra protection, and so again, it's one of those that we put into the facts. If you want to see some of the recommendations in there, we dropped a couple different tires in there.
And for everyone wondering what facts means, it's
but
FAQ.
It's not to say that those are wrong.
FAQ is what he's saying.
Yeah.
We're going to send you facts.
FAQs.
It's not like the kids these days are saying facts. It's not that one. It's FAQs.
That's who I hang out with. They're schooling me on the languages.
For sure, equipment. If you guys have equipment questions, just send us a message. We do have like actual tire recommendations that we can send you if you are interested in that. But for the sake of this conversation, essentially run what you bring, knowing what you do know about the Flint Hills. Because of the area, I think the weather has extremes, and at this time of the year, there is a chance for rain. There is a chance for things to be slower than you expect. So from that angle, we will cover some of the stuff in regards to packing and like maybe bringing a hydration bladder, bottles, nutrition, all of that stuff. So Dave, how do we normally cover that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll all come in the email they get. And in the questionnaire, we'll ask about the equipment that they're bringing, especially the bike, and get into the details so that we are prepared with the mechanics, you know, because there is a difference between 9, 10, 11, and 12 speed chains. So
Good point.
could break
I have
those
to think
things out
other.
there.
Oh, yeah. Anything on that, Bobby?
Well, you touched on briefly. I mean, what I could say over and over and over again is that I don't want to overstate it, but I also never want to understate it. The Flint Hills. Whoa! Look at that. We had a. It's
Well,
windy.
we lost them.
Windy.
Surprise.
You know, the where you're at in the Flint Hills, you can get caught with low cell phone reception, and the weather can change very quickly, especially in early April. Don't let that scare you. We'll be prepared for everything, but it will change the experience that you have that day. And however you need to be prepared for that, we'll get you prepared for that. So that's the whole point of these camps. So.
Yeah, and I think you do a good job leading up to the event of
Yeah,
like giving people, here's what it's potentially going to look like. Here's the status of some of the roads. We at Mammoth Tough call those
Yeah.
gravel reports. And so we do like your gravel reports, Bobby, when you put those up there. I think it helps people make decisions, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the point of my event is not to see how many people I can make fail. It's to see what the experience I can give people and have them succeed, but challenge themselves, but still succeed after they've done that. So we'll give you what we can give you, absolutely, leading in through camp and up to the event day. So.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why I like what you're doing and why we get a lot of first timers that come to Mammoth is it's so important for us to make people feel comfortable doing these challenges. And so we don't want to just say like, here's a route, good luck, like figure it out while you're out there. Like
Yeah.
we do want to hold your hand and like actually make it be a good experience somewhat. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this. Okay. My question, because I know somebody's going to ask this, what happens if it's muddy?
Two ways to answer this. What happens if it's muddy during camp? What happens if it's race day?
Okay. Both.
Well, during camp,
We have Isaac.
Yeah, we'll have some mechanics and myself to clean everything every night. Make sure it's still working. If we know that the conditions are going to be pretty nasty leading up to it, then we make some different recommendations to people on what to bring. And that's kind of what we're talking about with all this, and that happens in the last 2 weeks when those questionnaires come out, and then we send those final notices and the week before leading in, and then it's the goal here is to come and have some fun. And even if it's muddy and cold, the better part about camp situation is you get to go out with friends and probably ride in conditions that you wouldn't necessarily do on your own. And that's the part I always laugh about with it is it's like, well, I would never do this on my own, but it's fun when there's other people to suffer with.
I will say that we have many different types of gravel roads around that area. And the goal is not to have a mechanical malfunction before event day. So if it's super muddy or whatever during camp, then I can talk with the coaches and see what we want to do for the routes during camp. As far as the route on event day, I can guarantee you that the route is not set up to ever make you march 5 miles in the mud. I cannot guarantee you that there isn't 5 miles of mud on the route in sections. So it's always fun to hop off and hike your bike for a mile.
I'm okay with 5. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Part of the adventure.
Now, we had a heavy rain our first year, the night of, and it was a little bit unexpected. I thought the road was better than it was, but we did have a 2-mile walk that first year. And I told myself after that year, that's not my intent to ever make somebody walk 2 miles straight at one of my events. It can be fun. It can be a fun experience with a large group of people at other events, but that's not the purpose. That's walking.
I've been to those events in the Flint Hills where there's a lot of us hiking, and there was a lot of people
But
having fun.
we will ride if it's raining. So on event day, absolutely. So.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think it's part of the adventure, so I laugh about it. But yeah, it's plus two. It's like, what do you do on certain types of roads where there is more mud, and so it's kind of fun to get those experiences and flush them out. So if you do go to some of these, because you still get rain in June and July, we've seen that a lot of times going into Unbound weekend where, 3 hours before the event or 3 a.m. it just, the skies open up and an inch of water decides to come down. And it makes it a pretty interesting
we
day.
have one more question I'm going to ask Bobby, and then while Bobby's talking, if you guys have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get to those at the end. You can either type it in a little question thing or just leave a comment. I'll pay attention. But the last thing we're going to talk about, what kind of support is available specifically for the riders that come to camp?
Yeah, so for the campers, I truly want this to be, from an event perspective, a VIP experience. I think it's a cool way to come to the ride, and not to give anyone any extra advantages as far as time bonuses or whatever. It's just going to give you a little bit more fun experience out on the course itself. One thing immediately comes to mind is abandonment pickup. In the case that something does happen mechanical or something does happen weather-wise, nutritional-wise, or whatever, you need to abandon the race, we have a separate number that'll be available. Not that you will be necessarily gotten to any faster than somebody else, but you'll have a direct line. So look at Amanda.
Oh, I like that.
The aid stations you're going to come into, so we have partnered actually, and this is kind of a cross partnership with Flint Hills Gravel, is with the United Way. They are already going to be at each of the aid stations with their own tent, providing a VIP service for people who have opted into their United Way VIP support, which is a fundraiser that we've done with them, and you will be included into that group. So what they are planning is to have, if it's cold, they'll have things that are warm. They might have they'll have some coffee. They'll have some warmer treats, some heated up things that way. They may have extra chairs to be sitting in and resting and that kind of stuff. So just more of an overall experience for the rider when they roll into the tent. So I'll have a mechanic on duty at all 3 of their stations. So I think that'll be a big benefit and a lot of fun to come into. Also, those VIPs for the United Way and the VIP for the campers, you are the only ones who are going to be able to have a drop bag service in the afternoon, and you're on a longer ride. You'll be able to change in and out of the extra warmth clothes into cooler clothes. And otherwise, we don't have drop bag service on the course. So that is another plus. You'll have the VIP early registration, and then post ride, I have a tent that'll be set up for anyone in either the campers or the United Way to come in. You get a little special after ride treat too, that's being done by our Sweet Granada chocolate factory here in town.
Ooh, I like that. I like the VIP for a good cause thing. I think that's cool. I like that. So for people listening, you can go to and under the rider in United Way VIP support information, which is everything that Bobby just talked about. It's pretty cool. What does United Way do for those people that don't know?
They're supporting families that are underserved in our community, and that can be anything family related. So it can be from food to comfort to shelter, any of that.
Nice.
So
I like that.
We have the Flint Hills. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I don't think we got too many questions that came in. I saw somebody earlier say that you should just call it an expo, so we got that
I
feedback.
Yeah, somebody made the comment or was kind of asking, like, would you use this as a practice for Unbound? And that's the point that I keep trying to make is, in the past, and working with a lot of athletes that have done well at Unbound and, kind of for, yeah, a long time now, almost 10 years. It's it is cool now that there are events in a similar area that you can kind of go see what this riding's like and test out your gear, and it's an earlier time of year and go get miles in these places, but also get that feel of, being more grassroots. And that's the part about it. When I was first going to DK, or now Unbound, it was like such an experience to go to Emporia, and like I always tell people, like, here we are, we've raced bikes and been all around the world, but to go to a town like that, and I'm going to a restaurant saying, hey, like, what time are you guys going to open in the morning for breakfast? And they're like, what time do you want us to open? I'm like, 4 a.m. I want to eat. They're like, cool, we'll be here at 3 something and coffee will be ready for you. And I'm like, this doesn't happen anywhere else in America. So yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. And I think, didn't we ride to Americas last year, Amanda? Or 2 years ago? So
2 years.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to kind of go do camp out of there, because the downtown's a pretty cool square.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to say before we wrap this up is there's a lot of stuff that happens to you in events that will like take you by surprise, I would say. For example, one of them might be coming to a muddy section of road, and if you've never had to take in your bike and shoulder it with like 2 bottles in it and fully loaded, there are certain scenarios that are good to practice beforehand. And this is one of the things that Dave and I talked about our cobbler talk, was like, there's going to be stupid stuff you have to do at rock cobbler. There's going to be stupid stuff you have to do at Flint Hills gravel. There always is stuff that you wouldn't normally do if you're out just like riding on your own. And so that's another reason why these camps are good, is because we'll make you do that stuff beforehand, dismounting and all these other things that you don't think about on a normal basis, but you'll probably need to like access quickly in your brain when it comes to an event day. And yeah, it's really, that's also a safety thing. Like, we just want people to know what to expect and not hurt themselves or make a silly mistake because it was something you're not used to doing. So yeah, that's my safety pitch of why camps are also a good idea. Anything else, Bobby?
No, I think, you've decided to, when you come to these events, sign up for the events, you've decided to take on a challenge. And I think that you should do what you need to do to complete that challenge successfully. When my first Away from Emporia challenge was the very first year of Land Run, which is now Mid-South. And I didn't even know what a derailleur was then. It was muddy. It was my first time. I made it 70 miles and sheared my derailleur off because I tried to overcrank at a low mud. And if I had just been told, get off the bike that 1 mile,
don't shift,
but you go through all that prep work and everything. So why wouldn't you do something extra to be so fully ready to complete the challenge?
Yeah, so good. So that's so smart. It's so true. It's like, yeah, if somebody had just told you that stupid little thing and you had known, it would have been fine. So yeah, we want to do this so that none of you make the same stupid mistakes we did in the past 10, 15 years. And we'll just give you all the secrets right off the bat, right? You're welcome.
Hopefully. Yeah, like the year that everybody's derailleurs ripped off their bike in the first 5 miles. Leaving Emporia. Like, that was pretty insane. And the easiest way to explain it to people when they ask, like, how come your bike kept working? I'm like, well, I didn't shift, and I took my water bottle and started spraying my derailleur so I could pedal through it and get around people. And then they're like, oh, and everyone that you saw them break, it was like they kept shifting to an easier gear when it's clogged, and then you just watch it suck up and rip straight off the bike, and the day's done and you're 15 minutes in. So it's yeah, it's fun to go and talk about those things, talk about the conditions, things that can happen. So
in fact, if it's dry that week,
April.
I will go water down a ditch so you guys can play in the mud.
Just gonna...
I'm good. I mean, if it's dry, I'll talk about it. We'll show them pictures from before. Some of the pictures you gave me, I'm like, I'm going to put these in here because I don't want to make people afraid.
And I do want to point out, we have been talking about Americus a lot. There is also the camp in July that's out of Alma. And we'll probably do another one of these. I think we should just do another conversation like this as we approach July, because it'll be different conditions and different things we're dealing with. So, yeah.
Alma, well, Buncey County is an entirely different beast. Yes. If you've ridden the Unbound when it goes north and everyone says, oh, I hate it when it goes north. Okay, well, that's where the entire race is. It's north. So.
Yay. That'll be fun. Okay, well, let's wrap this up. Bobby, give me one more pitch, one reason why Americus is important to you and why people should come ride there.
It's where I grew up. It's a part of my history, and it's always going to be a part of me. So now I get to create new memories there by inviting you there to have some fun on bikes.
Perfect. I love that. All right. Thanks, guys. We will save this if you missed the beginning part, if you joined us late. We appreciate you all for jumping on. Do send us DMs. We answer everything. We are admittedly always on our phones. So if you have questions, please send them away. We will try to make you feel better about coming to camp. So thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thank you.
See you.